Hello, and today's purpose of the day is I can use the graphing calculator. We will use the online graphing calculator that I have shared with you through a link on Schoology. This calculator is very similar to the physical graphing calculator. We will go through the written notes here, and I will show you where those buttons are on the online calculator and how to use that. Let's get started. The primary benefits of a graphing calculator are the abilities to graph functions and to identify properties of those functions. The graphing calculator can help find some basic operations such as finding the y-intercept, zeros, otherwise known as the x-intercepts or solutions, and the minimum maximum points on a graph. We know how to find all of those operations, but the graphing calculator can also find those for us and be pretty efficient with doing that. Graphing. The first step in any graphing problem is to draw the graph. On the calculator, this is done by going to the function screen by pressing the y equals button and entering the function into one of those lines. Let's take a look at that. Here is the online graphing calculator, and this was shared to you through a link in Schoology. And this is also the calculator that you will use for your MCA test. So as you can see, the MCA shares an item sampler with you and even a calculator portion. And here it's the graphing calculator for 8th graders. And so let's take a look here. And I can move this around on my screen, which you will be able to too once you take a look at this. And I can zoom in. I can make it, larger, smaller if I need to, but I think it's a pretty good size right now that you can see on the screen. I could also turn my iPad the other way so I could make that calculator larger too. So there's different options and things that you can do, but I'm going to leave it at this size for now. All right, so we're going to look at the function x squared minus 4. And whenever I press a button on this online calculator, you will see that it will light up in red. So on the calculator, this is from our notes, I'm just reading it again. You can see that in front of you. This is done by going to the function screen by pressing the y equals button up here at the left. So I clicked that and it's red, as you can see it's outlined, and entering the function into one of the lines. We're just going to use the top line, the y1, but I can type in many different equations at a time, and the graphing calculator would show all of those graphs. So here I'm going to type in x squared minus 4. I'm going to press the x button, which is right there next to the alpha button, then squared minus 4. So again, when I press those buttons, they lit up in red. After the function is entered, we will need to press the button graph, and that's over. You see those top over at the right, the buttons that are listed in gray. I'm going to hit graph. Here's what the graph on the calculator should look like, and that's what it says in your notes, but we can see that here too on the screen. And that is correct. Now let's find the y-intercept of this graph. As you know, the y-intercept of a graph is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Because of the way graphs like these are set up, any and all points that lie on the y-axis have x values of 0. Because of that, we can use the value button on the calculator to find the y-intercept of any graph. After entering the graph into the calculator, as we already have, we are going to press second and then trace. So second is the blue button, and then trace is that button right next to graph. It's up at the top right, and it's that gray button. To go to now we're at the calculate window. It says calculate at the top, and we're going to scroll down to highlight value. It's actually the first option. So it's already highlighted, so we're going to click enter. This will take you to a graph with the x equals displayed at the bottom of the screen, which you can see right now. We will type in 0 and then press enter because we want to know the value of y when x equals 0. So I'm going to type in 0, and then I'm going to press enter as the directions told us. The graph will now display a cursor where the y-intercept is located along with the x and y coordinates of that point and the function equation of the graph selected. The y-intercept is -4 as an ordered pair, parentheses 0, comma, -4, parentheses. Remember, this is also c in a quadratic equation, so we already knew this, just confirming this with the calculator. So as you can see, the screen there says x equals 0, y equals 4. So that's the y-intercept. Now we are going to find the zeros of a graph. So I'm going to go back to y equals, and I'm going to press graph so I can see my graph again, just kind of go back to the beginning. And the zeros of a graph are the points where the graph crosses the x-axis, where y is always equal to 0. The idea of a zero is similar to that of the y-intercept, but the method used to identify the 0 points is different because on a graphing calculator, we cannot simply enter y equals and have it return the corresponding x value. So here's what we'll do. After entering the graph into the calculator like we have, we're going to press second trace again. We're going to get back to this calculate window, and we're going to scroll down and highlight 0, which is the second option. So I'm going to click the down arrow to go to 0, and I'm going to press enter. This will take you to the graph, but instead of prompting a number, the calculator asks you to identify the left bound. This is simply some point on the graph that is to the left of the point that you want to identify. Okay, so I want to find the 0. Remember, that's where the graph crosses the x-axis. So I want to find the one on the left, okay, because there's 2 here. It crosses the x-axis twice. So I'm going to move my cursor. So this is the part I want to find, that point right there. So I got to move my cursor somewhere to the left of it. So here above it would technically be to the left of it. Then I'm going to press enter. Okay. You will now see a little arrow above the point you marked pointing to the right, and that calculator is now asking for the right bound. So now I'm going to go below it here, somewhere to the right of that 0. Okay, and the arrow is an indicator that will be used to tell if you entered valid points. The right bound is a point to the right of the point you wish to identify, which here I've moved my cursor. Use the right arrow key to move the cursor along the graph until it is to the right of the point you want to identify, which now it is. Then I will press enter. Now there should be 2 arrows on the screen, which there are. If you entered the points correctly, the arrows should be pointing towards each other. If they are not, you will receive an error message after this next step, and you will need to redo the 0 function. The calculator should now be asking you to guess. So see how it says guess? We're going to click enter, and the calculator will identify this 0 for us. So as you can see, it is -2, and that's also known as a solution. If there are multiple zeros in your graph, which here we have more than one because we know it crosses the x-axis twice, we will repeat this process for each one until all the zeros are identified. All right, so I'm going to find the other 0 here now, and I'm going to hit second trace, go down to 0. Okay, now I'm going to find this other solution, so I'm going to move my cursor over, and this is the button this is the 0 I want to find, right? I'm like blinking right on that 0. But remember, I have to give it a left bound and a right bound. So I'm going to go to the left of this one, this solution. Now here on this side, it's actually below it. That's technically to the left of that 0. So I'm going to click left bound. I'm going to say enter. Now it's asking me for a right bound, so I'm going to go right above it. That's somewhere to the right of it. Click enter. Remember, I have those 2 arrows. Now it's asking me if it wants to guess, and I'm going to say yes. So I'm going to click enter. And that solution is 2. So go ahead and write that in your notes. The other 0 is 2. And so the 2 zeros, the 2 solutions here for this example are -2 and 2. And as you can see on the graph, it looks like they cross right at those points. It's not here, or it's an integral answer. It's not, right, a decimal. So our answers here also make sense. All right, now let's find the minimum or maximum of a graph. And I'm going to go back to y equals, go to graph. The max-min is the highest or lowest part of a parabola, and this is found by finding the y-coordinate of the vertex, which we already know. The process for identifying these points is very much like that used to identify the zeros, but remember that the minimum and maximum buttons will not find the same thing as the 0 button for most graphs. There will only be one max or min per graph. For this example, we will find the minimum because this example has a minimum. As you can see, it opens upward. We'll have a low point here, which will be the minimum. After entering the graph into the calculator, we're going to press second trace. So again, go back to that calculate screen, which tells us so much about each of the graphs. And we're going to highlight minimum. So it's actually option 3 here. Press enter. Use the left or right arrow keys to move the cursor along the graph to the left of the minimum and identify the left bound by pressing enter. So we want to find this bottom point here, right here. So we're going to do that same process of a left bound and right bound, but here it's just with this point, right? Just the minimum. So I'm going to go to the left of it somewhere. Just going to go anywhere to the left. I could go way up here. I could go really close. It, again, just has to be to the left, just like when we found those zeros. So this is a good spot here. So I'm going to click enter, give it a left bound. And then I'm also going to give it a right bound somewhere to the right of it. So again, if I put my cursor on where I want to find, if I click that right arrow, that means it's to the right of it. Okay, and we can visually see that's to the right. So I'm going to click enter. It's going to ask me to guess again, and I want it to tell me to calculate that answer, so I'm going to press enter. All right, now, as you can see on the screen, the minimum is -4. The vertex is 0, -4. Now, as you see where it says minimum x equals 1.858 e to the -6, that E symbol stands for times 10 to the -6. So sometimes you'll see with graphing calculators, for whatever reason of sorts, it doesn't say 0. It'll say, like here, 1.858 times 10 to the -6, which really is 0.00001858, right? So it's a very small number, getting very close to 0. And so instead of saying 0, it says that. Sometimes that happens. We know here it's 0, -4. So we got to make sure we just realize that and, say that value is actually 0 there. So the vertex here is 0, -4. And we could have found that mathematically too. And you can see from the screen, it is 0, -4. All right, so that's a little bit about the graphing calculator. And I'm going to go back to the y equals screen here, and you can actually, again, type in any equation. And feel free to find that graphing calculator link that I posted in Schoology so you can try this example too. And we'll try many different examples here moving forward with this online calculator. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.